I got home Friday evening thinking that after a long, exhausting week of traveling, I'd get a nice break in the company of my wife. Maybe even do something special with her. Our 3 children live independently now, and after 22 years of marriage, I figured we could enjoy a quiet weekend together. I walked into the garage, into the kitchen, saw the mail on the counter, and as I stood there, I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Then she walked into the room, my beautiful 45-year-old wife, wearing a short robe, the one she knew always made me take notice. "Oh," she said, a bit surprised. "You're home early." I glanced at my watch. "Sure," I said. I was a bit ahead of schedule, but it was still within reason. "Where are we going?" I asked, trying to keep things light. "Well, I'm leaving," she replied, her eyes darting to a small bag at the end of the sofa. I didn't know what she was doing, but she said, "I'm going." I froze. "Leaving? Where? With whom?" Her gaze shifted to the bag again, and she said, "I have a date with William Strathmore. I'll be back Sunday night, and we can talk then." It felt like the ground had just slipped away from beneath me. "You're doing what?" My first instinct was to call for backup. I grabbed my phone and dialed my daughter. I wasn't about to let this slide without some help. "Hello, Daddy, what's wrong?" she answered, cheerful as usual. "I need you to come here right now," I said, barely holding it together. "Your mother's hurt. She needs us." "Dad, what?" Her tone shifted confusion, concern, but I hung up and dialed my son, repeating the same thing, adding that he should call his brother too. I then called her parents. There was no shortage of confusion and shouting, but I didn't have time to explain to them. I threw her purse on the coffee table, spilling out the usual contents: credit cards, keys, a 12-pack of Trojan condoms, ironic since I had a vasectomy, and of course, a confirmation email from a Marriott in Kenilworth with room reservations from today through Sunday. William Strathmore. I thought I knew him. He was a pediatric surgeon at the hospital where my wife worked. I'd met him at a Christmas party a few years back, and I didn't like him. He was slimy, to say the least. His wife, however, was stunning, and I suspected there were problems between them. I confiscated the credit cards and car keys, then stuffed the email into my pocket for good measure. I knew her phone code, our anniversary date. She was still upstairs, so I quickly grabbed the hospital's emergency contact list. I found the home number of Dr. Strathmore, and after 2 rings, a woman picked up. "Hello," she said, not recognizing my number. "Mrs. Strathmore, this is David Collins, Judith's husband. Is everything okay?" "Oh, yes, Dave. I remember you. William. And I were just talking about you and your wife the other day. Is something wrong?" "I'm not sure," I said, "but I don't think William is where he says he is. My wife just told me she's spending the weekend with him at the Marriott in Kenilworth, and I have proof. I have a confirmation email for 7 rooms from today through Sunday." There was a long pause, and she said, "Let me call you back." I didn't wait around. I went to the hospital's director of health, Karen Adams, someone my wife was close with. Her husband, a detective sergeant, I knew well enough. I dialed her number, and when she answered, there was a noticeable tension in her voice. "Karen, it's Dave. I think something's going on between Dr. Strathmore and my wife, and I need it investigated." "Dave, I can't talk right now," she said quickly, then hung up. I was left standing there, unsure what to do next. Judith's phone rang, and when I answered, a voice I didn't recognize said, "Judith, he knows. He knows everything. What did you tell him?" I didn't say anything immediately, but eventually, the full truth began to sink in. I knew what was going on, and it was enough. Judith came down the stairs at that moment, dressed in a red silk sheet dress that barely covered her, looking like someone else entirely. The sight of her set me off. I grabbed the dress and tore it down the front. "You're not going anywhere tonight," I said, my voice cold. She protested, trembling. "I don't belong to you. I can do whatever I want." "Well, if you're going, you're not wearing that," I snapped, pulling her dress apart. Then my phone rang again. It was Mary Strathmore. "I'm sorry, Dave. You were right. William's been caught. He tried to claim your car was his, and that he had the right to drive it. They stopped him just 5 minutes ago. I'll take care of this," she added, her voice tense. "But I gotta go down there and fix it." I stood there in a kind of numb disbelief, trying to make sense of everything that had just happened. Judith wasn't leaving that night, not if I had anything to say about it. The situation spiraled quickly. I was arrested, and my car was confiscated. As we were speaking on speakerphone, Judith gasped upon realizing what had happened and called out, "What did you do, David?" "Damn you." Just then, my children rushed into the room. "Dad, what's going on?" "Mom, are you okay?" my son Dave Jr. asked, while my daughter Haley, noticing her mother's torn dress, approached her. "What happened to your dress, Mom?" "Dad, why did you tear it?" The accusations began. "What the hell, Mom? Tell me the truth. Why do you have 12 packs of condoms in your purse? Are you planning to make water balloons or something?" My son demanded. Judith, in a barely audible voice, replied, "I don't know where they came from. They're not mine." Then her response took an even stranger turn. "I can do whatever I want. This is my body." Immediately realizing how inappropriate her words were in front of our children, she tried to cover them up with, "Well, that's none of your business." At this point, young Dave rolled his eyes and went to the kitchen to grab a drink. A few minutes later, he returned with an envelope, handing it to me. "Here, Dad, it's addressed to you." The contempt in his eyes was unmistakable. Judith screamed when she saw it and bolted from the couch, her dress falling to the floor. "Don't read this," she yelled. Haley rushed to help her mother cover herself. I snapped at Judith to be quiet and sit down, then opened the envelope. The letter inside read, "My dear husband, my sister is caring for her mother and needs some help. I'm going to be with them this weekend and will be home Monday evening. Kisses, Judith." The children exchanged confused looks, unsure what to make of the situation. It was clear to me that Judith had written this before she was confronted by me, and her panic would eventually expose her lies. As if the universe itself were enjoying the drama, the doorbell rang. Before Michael could answer, Judith's parents stormed in. "Judith, are you okay?" her mother asked. Her father, seeing the chaos, roared, though it's been far from easy. Sometimes she sobs in regret, apologizing for the trauma she caused. It's painful, but with time, we are working through it. Our intimacy, once strained, is now more fulfilling than ever, but I've learned not to take anything for granted. In the end, the whole experience made me realize that I love her, but I'm no wiggling. What is going on here? Judith fainted. Her mother and daughter rushed to revive her, while her father began to boil over in rage. I quickly brought them up to speed on the events, making the atmosphere colder by the second. Judith regained consciousness and, in a hysterical state, pleaded with her mother for help. "Help? Call your sister. You were supposed to help her with your mother. Maybe she could help you out now." I snapped, handing Judith's father the letter. I dialed her sister's number. Mavis picked up. "Hello? Is this David? How is Mom? Is she doing all right?" she asked, almost too cheerfully. I replied, "Judith is really being helpful. I don't know what I'd do without her. Can I speak with her?" Mavis tried to brush it off, but her mother snatched the phone from her. "Don't worry about it, Mavis. Your sister has her own problems now," she snarled as Judith's mother ended the conversation. Mavis screamed, clearly upset. At that moment, Judith collapsed again, now mostly undressed in front of her children and parents. I felt nothing but contempt for her. At this point, Judith had ruined everything. Meanwhile, I received another call, this time from Jerry. "David, you were right. We got a search warrant for 7 rooms at the Marriott. We found 12 more people involved, including your wife." I could barely contain my rage. Jerry continued, "I'm sorry, David. I really am." Turning to Judith, I said coldly, "Go upstairs, put something decent on, and get out of my house." She stood, tears streaming down her face. Before she left, she turned and pleaded, "Please, don't throw me away like this." I responded bitterly, "You ruin our marriage with your selfish attitude. I could have cheated so many times, but I didn't. I loved you. But now, this is what you've done to me." Her composure shattered. Judith fled upstairs, leaving one of her heels behind. My son Dave Jr. then turned to her and said sarcastically, Don't worry, Mom. Adrian and I will plan your wedding for you. It won't interfere with your sex parties. Maybe Dad can bring a new girlfriend. He was referring to Adrian, his girlfriend, though we didn't know how serious they were. Now we did. As Judith left, her mother accompanied her out, and her father turned to me. Is there any chance of overcoming this? She clearly needs help. I met his gaze and replied, funny way to show it. Judith's actions, alongside her Dr. Lover's abuse of hospital resources, only worsened the situation. The hospital scrambled to cover it up, but the truth came out. Judith lost her job, along with others involved, including the doctor, who was fired and sued. The aftermath was devastating for her, but I was left to pick up the pieces of my life. Though I filed for divorce, I tried to salvage our marriage, believing that with time, I could help her. The pain was unbearable, and yet I couldn't bring myself to give up. We went through therapy, and though it was difficult, I worked tirelessly, hoping things would get better. My children stood by me, seeing that I was trying, and eventually Judith showed remorse, which gave me hope. However, months later, my anger boiled over when I saw the doctor who had been involved in the affair. I took matters into my own hands, beating him senseless. It was cruel, but I couldn't let him get away with what he had done. With a police officer present at the time, there were no consequences for my actions. I don't know if I would call myself lucky, but in the end, the right opportunities came my way. With the support of my children and friends, we were able to settle out of court, with the hospital and the doctor both facing legal consequences. We walked away with a significant settlement. Though my personal healing was far from over, Judith and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship.